So, Flow Wrestling's Night in America, Lee versus Ono card just happened. Well, just as in the relative term. And I think it was interesting enough to talk about and review the full card and also talk about some other things that I feel are worth talking about as relates to this sort of thing. I'll talk about each match in order of when they happened. For the sake of not having this video be super long, I'll go quickly through the matches as there were a lot of them. The first main card of the day was Nathan Tomasello versus Daniel DeShazer at 62 kilos. Throughout this match, Tomasello absolutely dominated DeShazer. DeShazer could get nothing going at all, and the score of 7-0 represented that, as Tomasello kept getting single legs and kept finishing them, and DeShazer couldn't do much about it or get any offense of his own, so Tomasello got a well-deserved win. Next, Marcus Coleman versus Jay Aiello at 97 kilos. Most likely because Aiello was over 5.5 kilos, or 12 pounds heavier, than Coleman. Aiello looked better for this whole match, controlling Coleman the whole time. He did substantial work with his underhook and got Coleman couldn't stop Aiello at all. Aiello started with an activity point, then a takedown to a single lace, but gave up a reversal. A late push out ended the first, and in the second period, Aiello got a roll through for an exposure into a takedown, then got another takedown, then got a go behind takedown to tech fall. Also, I think this was the only match above 90 kilos, this one being at 97 kilos. For whatever reason, most of the matches on this card were lightweights and midweights. The third match of the night was Socho, Moya Pettis versus Melanie Jimenez, the first of two women's freestyle matches. In the first period, after passivity for Pettis and the push-out for Jimenez got a late takedown to cleanly lead 3-1. In the second, after some positional defense, Jimenez got a big 4-point double leg. Pettis could get no offense going at all to come back, and Jimenez cruised to victory. Fourth up was Amanda Martinez versus Zelzatan Hernandez, the second women's freestyle match, and another US versus Mexico. After a push-out and some great defending by Martinez, she was up at the end of the first, but she did get saved by the bell from a takedown. In the second, though, Hernandez got a big 4-point double leg, though that might not have should have been called 4, seconds in, and while Martinez got a push-out, Hernandez being vastly more offensive and doing better with her offense. A double leg from Hernandez got her the 6-2 lead, and a go-behind got her the 8-2 lead and eventually win. It's often true that in wrestling, anyone whose best attribute is defense, whenever they get down, can almost never come back if they lack the offensive power to take back a match. This match and many others on this card were prime examples of that. The next match was Nate Jackson versus Kennedy Monday. Jackson just looked bigger in this match compared to Monday, so I was expecting a blowout, but this match was a lot closer and more exciting than I thought it would be. Jackson got the first takedown, but Monday countered a double with a lat drop for 4 points. Jackson kept scoring, though, mainly with push-ups, but he did get a big takedown. But since Flow was such a high-quality service, I can't really show it. In the second, Monday was in deep on a shot, but Jackson somehow managed to counter it in the crackdown position and got an exposure then a go-behind takedown. From here, I thought Jackson could easily cruise to victory, but Monday responded with a takedown of his own to keep the match close at 9-7. But Monday needed a takedown and got too desperate with a shot, and Jackson iced the match with a sprawl into a go-behind off of Monday's bad shot to eventually win 11-7. The match itself was surprisingly close and exciting, and also was the highest scoring match of the night. A good match, and, in my opinion, the second best of the card. Following that match was Austin DeSanto versus Seth Gross, two familiar foes, with DeSanto being up 2-0 in this matchup, and both matches being close. The title for this fight said it was supposed to be at 62 kilos, but both missed by over kilos. Maybe there's a +1 for this match specifically? I don't really know. DeSanto has always struck me as an asshole sore loser, so I was kind of hoping he'd lose, though to be fair, I don't know the guy personally. Maybe he's great. Somehow I doubt that, though. As for the match itself, Gross got a push-out by using DeSanto's pressure against him, then DeSanto stepped out while in a superior position in a low-scoring first. After some very impressive go-behind defense to get an exposure, Gross did some ludicrous crackdown defense through exposure, and then a 4-point roll-through to win via 10-0 tech fall. I definitely was not expecting that result going in, and I don't really think anyone was. Next was Bryce Andonian versus Austin Gomez. I saw some discourse that this match would be the best of the night, as Andonian and Gomez are hyper-offensive wrestlers, and this would be an entertaining, high-scoring back-and-forth match. The reality was anything but. After a neutral exposure ended a surprisingly slow first period, Gomez turned on the heat with a takedown, then a push-out, then a go-behind takedown.
A clean duck under from short offense into a gut wrench gave Gomez the win via 11-0 tech fall shutout. All in all, it was a very dominant match by Gomez. Despite the first period being slow, when Gomez started finding his shots, Andonian could do nothing to stop him, which is insane as Andonian is known for being super offensive, but Gomez shut it down. After that match was Zahid Valencia versus Trent Hidley. Originally, this match was supposed to be 2023 World Bronze medalist Valencia versus Olympic bronze medalist Aaron Brooks, which was a big match between world-level medalists. But for some reason, presumably injury, Brooks couldn't make it, so Trent Hidley became Valencia's next opponent. But Hidley was no Brooks, so I figured Valencia would dominate Hidley. I was right. Valencia got a go behind to start the match, then a push out to wrap the first. One more go behind takedown off Hidley getting desperate, iced the match for a 5-0 win. Hidley could get nothing going against Valencia. Valencia was just controlling the action for pretty much the whole match. Good win for Valencia, but it sucks that we couldn't see Valencia versus Brooks. The Olympic team trials match last year was an absolute banger, and it's a shame that we couldn't see it repeated, but unfortunately, these things happen. In what was absolutely the match of the day, the co-main event, David Carr versus 74-kilo Olympic silver medalist Daichi Takatani. This match was the most back and forth of the day. It started slow, but then Carr snatched up a low single and then turned that into a lace when she got 2 exposures. A huge fight by Takatani prevented Carr from getting any more. Late in the first, Takatani got a big double leg to bring the score to 6-2, making the match somewhat closer. In the second, Carr immediately faked the shot. Takatani, fearing what had happened in the first period, started the sprawl, but Carr used Takatani's movement to circle around and get a go-behind. After a bit of maneuvering, Carr got a gut wrench to bring the score to 10-2. One gut wrench away from a tech fall. But Carr got impatient. With the wind so close, he went for a gut wrench with his lock not quite tight enough to turn Takatani. Takatani used that to his advantage, twisting inside the lock to end up chest down to get an exposure reversal to bring that score to 10-4. Now on top, Takatani got a gut wrench to make the score 10-6 with just over 2 minutes left. But although Takatani managed to get the push out to bring it 10-7, Carr's defense was too good to allow Takatani to score enough to take back the match, and Carr won the match in a huge upset over the Olympic silver medalist 10-7. The crowd came alive, and the final buzzer sounded for a well-deserved standing ovation. And now for the main event of the card, the match that the entire event was built around, 57-kilo 2024 Olympic silver medalist Spencer Lee versus 61-kilo 2024 world champion Masanosuke Ono, meeting at 59.5 kilos. Starting the match, Ono was clearly doing a better job controlling the ties and the mat. This forward pressure resulted in Ono getting 3 step-out points using his right side underhook in the first, and Lee could get nothing going. In the second, neither could get much offense going at all. Lee still couldn't get to Ono's legs, and Ono couldn't get any go-behinds or takedowns or anything from neutral or short offense at all. While Ono got close to a takedown, Lee managed to avoid it, something that, while was pretty impressive, it was about as close as anybody got to a takedown the entire match. As for the rest of the match, Ono got called for head cranking, giving up a point and a caution. Then, late in the match, he got called for fleeing, which, while it was another point and another caution, it didn't really matter as Ono was up by enough to easily win 3-2 in a match where literally no wrestling happened. Or rather, there's not a single successful wrestling technique in the whole match. The crowd left pretty much instantly, which is honestly pretty disrespectful. I know their hometown hero basically got shut out in an extremely boring fashion, but still, by the time Ono was giving his post-fight speech, half the audience was already gone, which is disrespectful to Ono and what he managed to do. The score may have been 3-2, but Lee was nowhere near winning this match. Not once did he even get close to scoring, and Ono could score with push-outs, which was enough to win. Ono was controlling the whole first period, and the second was defensive stalemate, and to do that with someone as hyper-offensive as Lee is no mean feat. All that being said, the match was very anticlimactic for how much hype was surrounding this match specifically, but I guess these sorts of things happen. As for some other thoughts, the actual stream itself was better than I thought it would be, but not great in any capacity. This was the Flow event, whose streams are notorious for being laggy, buggy, and low quality. This one was a lot better than I was expecting, but there were more slowdowns than I'd like, particularly in the main event. I tried watching at a couple minute delay, but that changed nothing. Also, the ads. Not only could you not watch if you were paying for a subscription, they also shoved ads that were a lot glitchier than the live stream itself in your face every 2 minutes, which was really annoying to deal with. Keep in mind, Flow is a pretty expensive subscription service at $150 for a full year, or $30 for every individual month, so having to pay and still deal with these stupid issues and ads were really frustrating. Then again, this is Flow we're talking about, so I suppose we should be happy with what we got, as usually it's a lot worse. Besides the poor streaming quality, the event itself was great. Good production value with the intros, title cards, and general graphics, even if the audio cut out occasionally during the walkouts. The stands were mostly full, which is always a great sight to see with wrestling. At a guess, as the Extreme Arena has a max capacity of 5,100, and with an open area on the far side, but also a good amount of mat seating, I'd say that there were 4,500 people watching in person, which is very good for a small sport like international wrestling in America. Having this meet in Coralville, Iowa, where wrestling is huge, was a great idea, as it ensured that this tournament would be well attended. If only UWW would learn that putting people in big tournaments where people cared about the sport is a good idea. I think if Flow ever does anything like this again, and they really should, then I feel like they should get more international wrestlers. This kind of felt like a just US card with some Mexican and Japanese wrestlers thrown in, as every fight had at least one American wrestler. I really think the organizers could be a bit more international, as not only would you get more people from around the world watching, also the outside observers of the card just seemed stacked with college-level talent that hadn't done much besides that, though of course a lot of that perception is that UWW only allows one wrestler per country to be in a weight class for most major tournaments. That means that some of the best wrestlers in America, but not only in America and the entire world, are only known by diehards in their own country. They're stuck behind the best in the world, never be able to compete on the biggest stage world. That, of course, is a topic for another video. I also think that matches and fight cards like this should be 3 3-minute periods instead of the 2 3-minute ones, as while 2 3s is fine in tournaments where wrestlers have to wrestle 3 or 4 times in a day. In a fight card like this, each wrestler only wrestles once. I really think that some matches would be better if they had been longer with an extra period. Carr vs. Takatani could have been even better, as would have Jackson vs. Monday, and in defensive stalemates like Lee vs. Ono, then an extra period may well have had that stalemate break somehow. Though, in my mind, the tech fall limit would have to be raised from 15 points, as now athletes would have more time to come back from a 10-point deficit. That said, adding an extra period might just make the matches worse, as wrestlers might just start a lot slower to avoid getting too tired by the third period. But that's just my idea. Overall, great event with some issues. Hopefully Flow will put on more better fight cards and this will become a semi-regular thing. Still, probably not worth the $30 I paid for the month subscription to watch this. Oh well. At least I can watch NCAAs, as the pay bracket is long enough that I can watch both. Don't expect me to make a video about that, though.